Welcome to the Deal Nation podcast, where we tap into Launch Control's nationwide network of investors, coaches, and strategic partners to find out what's bringing in deals and how we can all work together to build generational wealth. We're joined today by David Richter, the founder of Simple CFO, an old school real estate investor, and a bit of a wizard at helping real estate investors maximize cash flow for their businesses. So, David, really excited to have you on. If there's a common denominator in real estate investment, it's that we all love cash. So, I think you'll be able to give some great advice to our audience today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Michael. I'm excited to be here.
So, let's start off with just a basic origin story. I know that you've got a long history in real estate investment. So, why don't we kind of dive with how you got started?
Read Rich Dad Poor Dad in college, so that got me interested in the real estate world. Did a first deal back then, and loved it ever since. And started working with a company that was doing about 5 wholesale deals a month, and grew with that company over the next 5 years. And we grew it to about 25 deals a month. So we were doing about 300 deals a year between wholesale, fix and flips, turnkeys, rentals. We had about 100 rentals, 80 of them were lease options. So, got to see and a lot of experience in the real estate space. But at that point, what started my origin story of what I'm doing today is we were doing 25 deals a month, but spending 26 worth out the door. So it's like you make a million,
Yeah.
spend 1.1 to get there. Who cares? Like how much you're really bringing in if you're spending more than you're making. So that just opened my eyes to what's going on here. I didn't know we could do this. Like we're doing so many deals. Then it was the same things in masterminds. I was going to events, other places, masterminds at that point, and everyone was in the same boat. Like you laugh because that's such a common thing of people get in, the head over the heels, or even if in the fix and flip, it doesn't even matter. You might not be spending, like more than you're making. You're just spending, excess profit that's already come in, and you're just the cash is outflowing. So it's real easy for all the money to go away. And I figured that out early on in my career, and that's what launched me at least on this road down helping people with their finances. I've got more to the story, but that's at least the origin was
Okay.
that big company. I wish I had a good ending to that company, but that company blew apart. Like we all went our separate ways across the and US, and some people stayed where right there and started their own business. I moved across the country to another place, and where I found what I'm doing today. But yeah, that was not fun, but it was also a very good learning experience for me, from real estate to where the heck does all the money go?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because I think that the most common route for investors coming in really like a cold plunge into entrepreneurship, right?
Oh,
Where they
yeah.
were working a 9 to 5, wanted to kind of get out of that rat race and go into a very direct transition where they're trying to get a couple wholesaling deals to give themselves some breathing room. But it's deep entrepreneurship right from the start, whereas you did
Yeah.
it a bit different. Like you kind of went through the apprenticeship route. Would you recommend that to at least do like a short-term apprenticeship with an investor or cold plunge?
It worked for me. I mean, like I liked
Yeah.
having that experience even in that company because there was highs and lows, and like no, it didn't end in the best way that we all wanted it to end, but we were all still friends and I got a ton of experience. That's real. I was honestly trying to earn to learn at that point, at that stage in my life. And if you're going cold turkey from W2 to the entrepreneurial route, that might be you. It wasn't me up front, at least right out of college. Right out of college,
Yeah.
I still had to go to work, get a good job. And then even though I was buying some properties on the side, and that was a little bit of my own entrepreneurship, it was cool to see a company that started pretty small and then started to grow and scale and then get to see that full experience, which was really neat. So I always tell people if you want to get into real estate and you're good at a specific set of skills, like whether that's calling and talking with people because you're good at marketing or sales, or if you're good at operations, a lot of real estate investors are looking for people with those skills so you could apprentice under them. But I would also say, be very clear. I was very clear with him that I probably wasn't going to be there forever, that I wanted to help build it. But, this was something that I wanted to learn. And then one day I wanted to keep that going or keep whatever, do the stuff that I was doing on the side. And graciously, that owner was like, here, how can I help you? And can I give you properties? So I bought some properties right from
Oh, that's
the
amazing.
it was so cool. And it was like they showed me and walked me through, buying an investment deal. And like that was the first deal I did on my own. I put more cash down than I've ever put down. But then once I worked with the company, I had learned more skills through them. So I'm like, I put less cash down out of my pocket because that's what it was important to me at the time. And I still got good terms and everything because of the way we structured the deal. And I'm like, this is so cool just learning all of that. So I always tell people if you can earn to learn, in first, because you're trying to get those skills that you don't have. And if you're an entrepreneur, and that's really where you're trying to learn the skills of being a business owner, where I got to sit in so many different seats in that company. It gave me a little glimpse of being an owner without being the owner because I sat in the different seats in that company because there was marketing and sales and there was operations and I was still finding what I was really good at, but I was also a utility man for them. Like, here, go fix a problem, do this or whatever, because I like to fix the problems. But then I got to see that I was more inclined to the financial department. Even without a financial background, I
Right.
like the dollars and cents and how it flowed through. So it was good experience for me too to see what resonated with me inside of a
Yeah.
business. So yeah, if you're new, it's such a great experience. Plus you get paid, plus you're helping someone else and bringing value to them. Plus you're getting to see what do I really love about real estate or about business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really good testing ground or learning ground to be able to do that because
Yeah.
I think it's fair that people do this, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of times when investors come in and they're making that cold plunge where they look for coaching, where they look for mentorship, is really in the sales and marketing funnel because
Oh
that's where the
yeah.
money
Big
comes
time.
from, right? But that
Yep.
operations funnel is really important, or that operation infrastructure is really important, and a lot of times that kind of goes overlooked or it goes YouTube educated, which isn't
Right.
going to it isn't going to get you there, right? Like you need the
Yeah.
actual real world experience. Because we'll see a lot of times we'll see situations where somebody comes in, they take the cold plunge, and then they have early success. They're using launch control, they tee up a couple of deals coming in through text,
Yeah.
and then they don't have the processes in place or the infrastructure in place to be able to close those deals out in a way that's efficient enough for them to continue prospecting and to continue keeping the deal flow in. So you get these unwanted interruptions because the processes aren't in
Yeah.
place. And so that in itself is hurting cash flow, right? Because you're not any interruption, anything that drains the pipeline a bit is a debtor a detriment to
Well, and
cash flow.
let's just pause there. Okay, let's say they did YouTube University and they've got something set up and the cash comes in. Do they know what to do with the cash now? Do they have a cash system? So like the
Yeah.
financial operations of it too. So it's like all the different pieces you have to put together as an entrepreneur. And like you said, if you're cold plunging, a lot of people go the marketing and sales route because that is. If you've ever read the book Fix This Next by Mike McCowitz, it gives a good like business hierarchy of needs pyramid. And the
Hmm.
bottom is like you have to have sales. Like you got to be text blasted. You got to go out there. You got to make sure deals are coming in the door, that you're picking up the phone, that you're calling people, that you're getting appointments locked in. But then from there, we have to have profitability and then order. Like we have to make sure we have profit in our business because we're running a for profit business and not a charity. And we have to make
Yeah.
sure that we're able to have that money to invest in order from the chaos. Like if you want to grow, you need systems, operations, processes, people, that take over some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking to Jason Lewis at Invest Machine recently. I'm sure you know him.
Oh, yeah.
And
Good friend.
yeah, and Jason said that deal count is an ego play.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
It's cash that matters, right? And
Yep.
and we see that a lot, right? Everybody's is measuring success based on deal flow, right? Like I've got
Yeah.
5 deals a month, 10 deals a month, I've got 100 plus a year. But to your point, 100 plus deals a year, if you're spending everything you make, then you've got what's the equivalent of, it's like the real estate equivalent of lifestyle creep, right? Like it's
Yes,
you're not
exactly.
you're not actually getting further ahead unless
Right.
the profit's there.
And that's where I talk about the real estate rat race. You're literally trading W-2 living paycheck to paycheck for deal to deal living.
Right.
You're caught up in the, and I like how you said it's the business version of lifestyle creep where it's just like, okay, we need to get bigger, we need to get more deals in, and then your expenses grow faster than that deal flow comes in, and then you see yourself upside down. You're like, where did all the money go? Or you get in over your head in flips Like you have so much out there and like, hey, you keep going over budget and then you keep dipping into your reserves and one day there's not reserves there for you to dip
Right.
into. So it's like there's so many ways that it can spring up, especially in the real estate world.
Yeah, no, we see that a lot. We have a done for you service called Launch Leads, and it works really well. And so
Yeah.
you get this high influx of deals coming in, basically, right? If you've got too many under contract, too many that you're trying to process, and you don't have the processes in place to offboard them, basically, then you get stuck in a place where you're just overwhelmed, right? You're
Yeah.
back to like maybe in a positive way, but you're back to kind of a stressed place that you got out
Yep.
of a W-2 to avoid, right? You wanted the breathing room, you wanted the freedom to take a Wednesday off if you want to take a Wednesday off, and now you're at a 15-hour day trying to make sure none of these deals fall apart. It's
Exactly.
so let's talk about. I know you work with a lot of investors. I know that you've had an impact on a lot of businesses. Let's get into the weeds a little bit. Tell me
Yeah.
about one particular group or investor you worked with recently. How you helped them. I think it'll help set the stage a bit for people listening.
Yeah. So, oh man, I'll pick one to start off with, might get, sprinkle some more throughout because there's so many different things. Because this is one of the biggest areas people struggle with is money, just
Yeah.
managing it. When it comes in, what the heck do I do with it? There was a guy that we've been working with for a long time, but he first came to us. He had one of the craziest stories. He was in a mastermind. That's where I met him. He was crying in front of the room because he was like, I just scaled up my business and it's been like the worst experience of my life. Said that he went into a CPA's office. She said, I never get into real estate because of how it looks and the numbers. And he lost $70,000 that year. And
Ooh,
he was just really like, really feeling down because he also told me we got a one-on-one Zoom call and he said, like, it gets worse. Like, I also am now doing like the 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. My wife's in the business. She's the transaction coordinator now, and she's been having seizures because it's just been so stressful. Like it was a crazy, crazy story. And he said like something has to change because he said I'll never forget this because it resonated with me with my background in that other business doing so many deals and spending so much. He said, David, he said, I did more deals this last year, but I lost more than I've ever lost. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly that's exactly what I see all the time and what I went through, in that other company. And so I'm like, here, let's take you on this journey. So we started working together because ultimately, what this guy wanted, his name's Joey, he wanted to have more time with family and he's a really big giver. He's got a big heart. So he wanted to give to charity. And like at the beginning, people needed to give to him. Like he had a nonprofit business, basically, an accidental nonprofit. And
yeah,
that's where taking him through some of the steps that we go through, like number one, why did you build your business? Like, why are you even doing this? Why are you scaling up? And then getting to where I call it the need and want number. What do you need to pay yourself so you can eat? Like you can eat and feed your family on a monthly basis. And then why did you really start it? What do you want out of this? That's where we extracted those two big things. He wanted more time with family and he wanted to give to charity. And it was really a light bulb moment for him when he saw like the last year he was scaling up, but it wasn't intentional behind what he really wanted to do with his business. More time with family. He had less time that year before, and he wasn't able to give, like, because he was in the hole. So that's where just helping him understand where he was, because we went back and found like his need and want numbers together with him. And he found out that, hey, in order for next year, for me to at least put food on the table, I only need to do 5 deals. Like versus what he was doing before, like trying to do 3 to 4 deals a month and scaling up. He just needed to do 5 to get to where he needed to be. Now he's kept that rolling and like he's built good habits. So now he's not just doing 5 deals, he's doing more on the what do I want to do? And he's scaled back up, and now it's been intentional. He had to take a year to really hone in what did he want. That's where we also guided him through setting up a cash flow system like Profit First, because so many people just don't understand that they're not playing the real estate game. That's not the game you're playing. You're playing the money game, but people don't know how to set up their money and they don't know how to win with it. They don't know how to make it a system that is followed, and a dollar comes in, I know what to do with it. That's where I went down the road of becoming the author of Profit First for Real Estate Investing, because I liked how Profit First laid it out very simply. So with
Yeah.
Joey, we laid it out very simple. You're literally, it's like the envelope method. That's what Profit First is based around. It's literally setting up business checking accounts and naming every dollar that comes in. And guess what? You want to spend time with family? There's going to be an account for spending time with family, and there's going to be an account for charity. It's like, and we're going to funnel some money in there and the money to run the business. So it's like
Yeah.
for him, that's how he set it up. And he saw that. And I have so many crazy stories just from him where year one, he was able to take like a 3-day weekend trip with that, family account. And he's like, I didn't have to worry about any of the other money, in the account. Now, fast forward several years later, because I write about him in the book, but like I have stories with him past that too, where last year he called me up and said, David, something crazy just happened. Like it's the middle of the year and I filled up all my accounts and I don't need to do any more deals the rest of this year. And it was like June, and
Oh,
like
that's awesome.
he didn't need to do any more deals. And he said, but I will. I'm going to keep doing deals. I'm just going to stack the cash. But he said, what a relief. Like I don't have to worry about that, which also helped him to invest in his business. And he was able to hire people to take his wife doesn't work in the business anymore. Like she doesn't have to be the transaction coordinator. The kicker though was he called me at the end of last year and said, guess what? I'm giving, from that giving account, I'm giving $71,000. And I'm like, Joey, do you remember how much you lost that first year? He's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. He's like, yeah. He's like, that's 70K. And I'm like, you just gave from one account and didn't touch any of the other money. So it's like, number one, you have to really understand why you're building your business and what are the numbers tied to it. Like, how much do you really need to take from the business? And it's not bad to take from the business. A lot of people are scared. They think I just need to keep reinvesting everything. You need to reinvest the amount of money that will give you the deal flow that you should be able to handle at the stage you're in. But then there should also be money to pay you so you stick it out for the long term. That's where we had to get Joey straight first. And then we could focus on, like last year, after he's built some of those good habits with his money, build those accounts, build the account to spend time with family. Last year, he took a 3-week road trip since he filled up all those accounts. Like it was a 3-week road trip versus 3 days. So there's a specific example, but I've got more, of just other people that once they have clarity, once they have the clarity, ultimately the people that come to us really want control of their business finances today. Because if they have control of those finances today, anything that means financial freedom to them, they start to get that clarity of what it really takes and where they can put the money to see it played out. So that's where, for him, that's what we took him on. That's what he did. That's where he ended up with simple systems just added to his business.
No, that's great. I mean, I think that it sounds like it's really a question of pacing, because there's two kind of divergent things that we hear within the community a lot, which is,
Yeah.
people come in and they want to get into real estate investment out of like a W-2 9 to 5 rat race, because they want exactly what you just said. They want to be able to spend more time with friends and family. They want to be
Yeah.
able to take a 3-week road trip. There's a freedom of time aspect to it. And then on the other side of the spectrum is a phrase that I used in the opening of this podcast: generational wealth, right?
Yeah.
And people want to get to the place where they're making really impactful money.
Oh, yeah.
But what I feel like happens, and tell me if you think I'm wrong on this, but I feel like in the beginning there's such a race to safety, right? They want to race to the
Mhm.
place that they don't necessarily need. They won't need to go back to a W-2. They can put that in the rear view. And that race to safety, often the pacing is too fast, and they get themselves into that position where they're doing 20 deals, but spending 21 worth.
Right.
And instead of kind of stage gating it, which is kind of what you gave in that example of somebody who just set a goal, got to that goal by June, and then was able to have a realistic idea of what the next stage was, right? Because I think, when did you get started? 2012? Is that what you said?
My real estate career, yeah, back then, that's when I bought my very first property back then.
Right. And I think, like any investor, if you could say you're going to buy your first property in 2024, and by 2036, you're going to be wealthy, and it's going to come in stages. You're not going to be wealthy in 2026, but you're going to get there on a steady pace, and you're going to be generationally wealthy. You're going to have generational wealth within 12 years. I think almost any investor would take that. right? But it's
Right.
the unknown of when that's going to come that I think causes people to sprint instead of stroll.
Yeah. I would say that's a very good sight into what's going through people's heads of why they go faster. That's why I'm like, that's why I like a system like Profit First, where even if you're on deal one, if you could have a good financial foundation from deal one, guess what? A year from now, you'll have built those habits. And then year two, year three, like you'll be much closer to financial freedom than the people who are even down the road but don't have a good financial foundation that's ever been laid. So it's like that's the other key piece is if you're going to go out there and bust your butt and go a mile a minute, if you don't have a system to catch the money, then you're going to end up like you just said, like you're just going to be spinning your wheels. It is going to be that constant rat race over and over again. Literally had a conversation today with a guy where he's been in real estate for the past 5 years. He's in his 50s and he's like, he's done about 10 to 12 deals, but he's in a pretty lucrative market. So his profit is anywhere from 50 to 100K per deal, like that he makes. But he's telling me, he's like, the reason he came to us is I still feel like I am not any closer than when I started 5 years ago. And I've been consistently doing 10 to 12
Mm.
deals a year at that profit margin, but I just keep reinvesting the profit into the next deal. And I'm not really seeing the financial freedom that I really thought real estate was going to provide for me. And I'm like, it is literally, there's no systems in place to catch the money. There's no systems for you to even be able to think before you take down a deal. Does this deal help me get closer to where I really want to be? Versus, ooh, that's a good deal. Like, let's just take it down. It's like, okay, if you take it down and you get 50K in, what are you going to do with that 50K? Because if most people take most of it and just stick it all back in, and then they're sweating bullets until the next deal closes, and they're like, "Good grief, I'm glad that's closed. Like, let's get to the into the next one." So you really have to know that if you're going to make money, you have to have a system to keep it too. And that's why I like what you brought up of if you're starting out and you're in W2 land, it's like this is where you're going to invest in yourself. If you're going to send out the text messages, like if you do the action, you're going to get deals. Like
Yeah.
you send it out, especially with a simple system like Launch that makes it so easy to get deals in the door and like has the templates and has the things to say. Like you get that in, you get that lead in, you close that deal. Now, what do you do with the money? Most other investors just go next deal, next deal, next deal, next deal, versus being a business owner and saying, okay, I know what to do with the money from this deal, and I know what I'm going to do from the next deal and the next 10 deals, and building a good financial foundation. So I don't care if you're on deal one or deal 1,000, you need to have a good financial foundation in your business.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a big part of the reason why we started this podcast. It was just to really connect the community with a lot of, I mean, we work with a lot of people like yourself that are
Yeah.
super knowledgeable and have that, decade plus level of experience that they can share because, I think something that everybody wants, right? Like the guy that you mentioned, I think his name is Joey, right? Like for
Yeah.
him, if he could hit his goals by June or July of every year, who wouldn't want that, right? To have
Right.
this, to have the back half of the year just be smooth sailing. Anybody would want that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we want for all of our users. We want launch control and text marketing to bring consistency to their businesses. We want them to
Yeah.
always be able to turn back and have a full pipeline of leads that they can work, close, and profit from. But they're because what we're doing fits into the infrastructure of a whole business model, whether it's a baby business model and they're just getting started, or they've got a team of 7 and they're in 8 markets and they're doing every kind of investment you can think of from, they've got rentals and fix and flips and wholesales and wholesaling and they're doing it all, right?
Right.
they're
Yep.
they're licensed, so they'll take a deal down that way too. They're up to the place where they're doing everything. All right, like we want consistency in all of those businesses, and it's not lack of leads coming in through our pipeline that slows people down. It's it's the back end of the process of being
Yeah.
able to efficiently close those leads, get the contracts dealt with, and then be able to turn back and run another one, and then run another one, and to your point, take those profits and in wisely reinvest them, right?
Right.
It's not It's not always it's sinking 100% of everything into real estate. That's where you get those gaps, right? Like how much of your I'm sure it's a big part of what you do, but like how much of that profit goes into your marketing channels for bringing in additional deals? How much of it goes into the an emergency bucket for if you get that 1 in a million deal and being able to have the freedom of cash to get involved in it? What if, they're setting up those different buckets of money and making sure that they're distributed in that way, I think is something that most people probably don't get into until they've had at least a medium level of success and start thinking, okay, I got to get organized. But
Yeah.
I would love to see organization from the beginning so that people don't get hit with those gaps.
Right. And it is. It's the sooner you can start, the better your habits are for the deals. If you do it at deal 1, then you've got the habit at deal 10. Now you have 10 deals with good habits. But that's the same thing even like I said, if you're 100 deals into it, then you start from deal 100 and then at deal 110 because you know how to get deals in the door, you've got the good habits. So it is. It's the sooner you can get the good habits in. That's why too you might if you're new, you might not need like a service that we provide, but that's why I wrote the book, and like there's books out there now to make sure that you know where your cash is going and setting up a system. Cause like anyone can pick up a book, anyone can start the process. It's just like making sure you actually you start to build a good financial foundation for that, for your business.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So within our community, right,
Yeah.
we've got people coming in, and if I just look at it like per the subscription levels that we have,
Yeah.
right? Usually, when someone is on our light subscription package, they're in the beginning stages of building up their business in REI. When
Yeah.
they get to the core subscription package, they're scaling up. They've probably got a VA in place.
Yeah.
They've got enough deals that they need help, right? And then if they're up to the pro or enterprise level, they're running a shop, right? They've got a team. They're not dealing with the marketing channel. Somebody else is dealing with that for them. And so there's a clear level of scaling up within our community. So I'm curious, kind of what advice you would give for that sort of organization, and just without giving away the farm, some things like question one, some things that people could do at each one of those stages that would be
Yeah.
impactful, and then two, at what stage they should contact you. Like when
Yeah.
is when
Yeah.
when does your avatar come into play within those stages?
That's a great question. So number one, for the people that are just getting started, maybe on the more of the light, right now, and you're just getting you're literally getting launched off the ground. That's why that's such a great business name for you guys. You're getting launched out there. That's where I would say you start with the book. Start with the and I would say profit first. I wrote the real estate investing version. So if you're in the real estate game, you've got a book specifically for you. And it's not this heavy financial read. It is literally how to set up the envelope method with bank accounts for your business. Where if you're going to go out and do the work of getting an EIN and an LLC and all the stuff you got to get up
Right.
front, and you're going to open up a bank account, you might as well open up a couple other ones that I suggest in there, like this is what I want and need. Like, do I have a business bank account where I feed my family from? Do I have one where I'm where I want to go? Like for Joey, it was the charity and it was the, spending time with family. Then is there also one for OPEX and marketing and making sure that my deal flow can keep coming in, and that we're spending the money to get the deal flow to be where it needs to be for our business. But that's where that book holds nothing back. It goes over what I went right there, and it really helps you get in line with what do I want to do with my business, so that way you don't end up like where Joey was and a lot of people end up, is just they're scaling for the sake of scaling. And then they, like we did, we scaled ourselves into oblivion. Like that is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to help people not to do is don't just scale for scaling's sake, scale with intentionality and with the dollars behind you to be able to scale and scale profitably as well. So I would say start with the book. We have a podcast as well. Just try and get the profit first methodology inside of
Yeah.
your head, or like that system. So that way you can also set it up practically. And then, so that's probably more of the DIY if you're just getting started. And then from there on the higher packages, I would say both of them. Of course, you could read the book to more get the understanding of what is being taught, and like that a dollar comes in, I know what to do with it. A dollar comes in, I put it in the most efficient and effective place. But at that point, if you're starting to hire other people, you don't want to be running the financial department. You do not want to be the bookkeeper or the CPA or, a CFO type person who's like leading the whole department. That's where, if you're starting to do deals, that's where our service comes into play. You have to be making money. You have to be
Mhm.
actually in the game doing at least 10 deals a year, I would say, whether that's rentals or wholesales or flips. That's a good starting point. But then we take you by the hand and hold your hand through profit first and really clarifying, why are you building this business? What are those goals? Okay, that equates to how much do we need to spend in marketing, to get the deal flow in, to get you how much in the top line in order to get the bottom line that you want, from your business. And then just going through and making sure that we guide you towards that end goal. And that's where, levels 2 and 3 on your system would usually benefit from someone walking them through it, because the other big benefit that we have is we're fractional CFO. So what the heck is that? It's a part-time chief financial officer or a financial leader. So it's helping you set these systems in place, hold you accountable to profitability, but then we also manage your bookkeeper or CPA relationships to make sure you have numbers that you can be confident in, that we can make business decisions from and know where do we stand at all times, so you don't have to wonder and worry. That's the number one reason when businesses start to scale, why they lose sleep at night. They don't have a grasp on where they are financially in their business, and it's like they don't even know if they're making or losing money. So that's where
Yeah.
it's a simple framework we set up. Do you know what you make, spend, and keep? Do you know what's coming in, what's going out, and what you get to keep from it? But I would say those next two levels is more of who we work with. If you're on that light package and you're just getting started, the book is a good place to start to get the mindset. But then you can also start to implement if you're, like I said, setting up bank accounts and doing stuff like that already.
Yeah, and if anybody is watching this on YouTube, David's product placement is on point. You can see the book right above his head on that bookshelf
Right
back
there
there.
it
So
is.
take a screen capture. There you go. Yeah, I think I listened to your the podcast you did with Pace Morby the other day as well,
Oh,
and
cool.
like one thing that he said, and I think it points to the fact that you guys fill a really important gap in the market, is he said, the jump between having just a bookie and a real like talented CFO financially is a huge jump for your company.
Huge,
It's
huge.
a minor hourly wage up to like a high salaried position, and
Right.
not right, like not
Yeah,
everybody's ready to make that jump. So having a
exactly.
fractional CFO opportunity or resource that understands real estate investment, so you're not going on LinkedIn or worse Upwork trying to like figure this
Right.
out. Like that's a really nice resource to have in place.
Yeah. Eh, I just see so many people, they try and do the books themselves or have a bookkeeper in place or do something like that, and they're not getting what they want from them, or they don't know how to manage, and they're like, "See ya, here's the shoebox full of receipts," and they walk off into the sunset, and then next year they're
Right.
like, "Are my taxes, am I ready to file taxes?" Well, no. Or they go to file taxes and their CPA says, "Your books are a mess." And then they got to
Yeah.
clean it up. It's like, I just want to save from all that awful headache throughout the year, set up some good systems so you can run it of, "Well, this is where I stand financially, and I
Yeah.
don't have to be uncertain anymore. And I really want that control." That's what we're ultimately trying to get you to, is that I have control of my finances so I can direct the finances.
So let me ask you this, because I've talked to a lot of people that are wildly successful in this
Yeah.
industry. They went from being like a beginner real estate investor to just doing a ton of deals. Then they got into coaching, and now they're influencers, and now they're doing
Yeah.
media tours, and they're talking to me, and they're just crazy successful, bunch of different profit streams. And almost to a person, they have a whimsical moment where they go, I had a sweet spot where I just didn't have to do much and I was making a good amount of money.
Yeah.
So is there a for you, is there like a sign that you tell people is like a pump the brakes moment of, this is where you want to really kind of reassess how big you want to grow this thing, or do you just give them stages and kind of let them
Yeah.
run?
What a great question. Where in the profit first system, like in the book back there, it actually has target percentages based on the size of your business. So, like
Oh,
if
okay.
you're from 0 to 250 in gross profit or property profit, that'd be wholesale fees or like what you actually make on a flip or like your rental income. So that's where it's like, where do you fit in that scale? And then at each one of those scales is a good reassessment period, because if you're going to go from 0 to 250, you usually need to hire someone. And that takes your profit down, but it gives you time back. So it's like the percentages change, but you still have profit margin for yourself and you still got to pay yourself. And it's like it's still built in, but now more of it's weighted towards operational expenses because you're hiring people and you're investing in systems, but it's got it for each stage. So if you hit the target for the stage you're in, that's a great time to say, do I want to go to the next one? Because I know I'm going to have to invest in people, processes, and systems in order to go from where I am today to the next level. And that's where it's laid out in black and white in that book. And then also, I like the framework of what I talked about from Fix This Next with Mike McCowitz. It's you also have to think about it from, okay, what does that really mean? It also means not only investing in the operations and the process systems, but I'm going to then, if I do that and invest in the people and the processes, I go back on that hierarchy of needs back to I need more sales, I need more profit, and then I need order again. So it's like you're always reinvesting in those three things if you want to keep moving up, like to
Yeah.
the next stage and to the next, level in business. Is okay, if I get healthy in this stage, do I want to invest in the order of my business, so that way I have to get bigger and I'm getting bigger and maybe getting some of my time back, but then I need to reinvest back into sales. So like if you're on light, you would go to that core package, like you have to reinvest in yourself to go to that next level. But that gives you a good roadmap of to be that exactly answers your question of once I hit this target, do I want to go to the next one, or do I like where I am now? Because hey, you might be at 1 million and you're like, oh, I've heard that the next stage is pretty hectic. Do I want to scale it to a $5 million business? And now I have a team of leaders, and then I have middle management, and then I have the virtual
Right.
assistants or whoever, and all that. You have to be thinking about that at each stage. That just gives you a very clear cut way of thinking of it.
Yeah, when you're not just self-providing, but you're providing for others, and their kind
Yes.
of future is hinged to your future. Those are big questions to take on,
Big questions, big responsibilities, and that's where it's taking all that in. That's why it's very important you get very clear on where you're going as a business owner. Where
Yeah,
if you're like, hey, at the beginning, Joey was like, I just want to scale. But then when we dug in and actually asked him the tough questions to ask himself, he's like, no, I want to spend time with family and I want to give to charity. Then it's like, well, then the business is going to look a little different than just scaling and running around like a chicken with your head cut off all the time. It's like
yeah,
we have to build something different. So it's very intentional up front. And then you have those little milestones. If you hit target for this amount of profit that we're bringing in, or the like revenue that we're bringing in, then do I want to get to that next level?
yeah. So in real estate investment, I think that, well, from my perspective, there is always going to be a need for what real estate or investors provide.
Oh
It's
yeah,
They're
always.
just, homes are not always going to be turnkey.
No.
Homeowners, sellers are not always going to be prepared to go that route. There's always going to be a fairly sizable group who need solutions that don't fit the MLS model, right? So I think
100%.
that what the services that we provide in real estate investment are essential, and I don't really see that going anywhere. But there are always questions of what's happening in the industry and what's going to happen next, and I mean, this. There's always been a little bit of the sky is falling kind of
Oh
mentality in real estate
yeah,
investment,
all the
and
time.
so I'm curious, in current environment, which is like any other environment of the last 5 years, a little bit sky is falling sometimes. Where do you see the industry headed, and do you think the sky is staying in place?
In my personal opinion, I believe that for right now, we have such a wide range of clients too across the U.S. Some of them, their market is still like they can't keep things on the shelf for very long.
Yeah,
Some of them have cooled down in certain places, and that's where I'm also a part of some big groups of like some big franchises and stuff like that too, where you can hear the rumblings where it's slowing down in a lot of the different markets for them. But then I look at our client base, and like some of the people that aren't attached to that aren't seeing some of the slowdowns in the same market. So to me, It's more of what you said. What you said is key. This is always going to be a need. I think it's going to be more reliant on, can the owner pivot to what the market needs today? Of, is it wholesaling or flipping, or is it the buy and hold? Like if it was 2008, 9, 10, I would go back in time at the end of my high school days and be buying up all the real estate I could, like during those time periods, to just buy and hold for a long time. So it's like, that's where I think right now, even if there's some cooling off, you have to think of two things. It's active and the passive. Like, are you more focused on the revenue driving and you need your ATM because of what your business is set up on? Or do you need more of the passive? And it's like, it's time. Maybe you have some good financial systems in place, you're sitting on cash, and it's time to invest in heavily, the rental side of the business. I think it's more important for the owner to take a hard look at what skills do they have in the real estate world, and do they need to, especially for their specific market, because like I said, all the markets are so different, and it's, real estate is local. It's like, that's where I see that the people that are very successful also have different tools in their tool belt. It's not just always the wholesale hammer. It's not just always the fix and flip as well. I'm also very much, though, a proponent for focus, but obviously you can't focus on something that's not working. So if your specific strategy is stop to work, or if you're in one of those states where they're trying to outlaw wholesaling and stuff like that, it's like South Carolina, or whatever it might be. It's like, okay, do you have the skills to transfer to another one, or do you need to go out there and learn it? I really don't see the market to where, even if it went back to 2008, 9, and 10, I knew people back then that were doing well in real estate, even when it was
Yeah.
bad, because they knew what to do. So it's like, I've seen people be very successful in very down markets. I've seen lots of people be very successful, obviously, in these up markets, that where even if there's a cool down, it's more of, can you play the pivot game more than anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think the common denominator there, obviously, and per this discussion, is cash flow, right? Like
Yes.
if you've got the cash flow to be
Options.
diverse, to have options, and you can take those options. But
Exactly.
I do find a lot, and I know that this is very specific. Like I know a few people that are like really good at seller financing, for instance, and it's kind
Yeah.
of a niche thing. But
Yep.
for those that have just been, really running and gunning wholesaling and looking to diversify, do you have any kind of, groups, books, coaches that you recommend that they connect with for
Oh
gaining
man.
that kind of additional skill set?
There's I That's a dangerous question, because I'm a part of some big groups that have lots of great people that I love and respect. Um, Off the top of my head, and I would say Josh and Tiffany High, results driven.
Hmm.
They're someone that I highly recommend. They're good personal friends. I know them on a personal level. They're just good people that get results out there. I would also say, you mentioned Pace Morby's name. If you're looking to figure out lots of things in the real estate, or if you want connections in community, he's built one of the best networks out there to be able to learn, not just from him, but like from the other people in his community as well too. It's like I said, so dangerous to go down this road, because I'm going to leave out the people that I also really trust too. Oh, here's one that a lot of people I don't think know about, but I would highly recommend, if you are an investor and you're looking for private money, go on some of these cruises. There's some investor cruises that
Cruises.
happen, that go throughout the year. I'm part of one. It's called, oh shoot, Investor Addicts. They just changed the name last year. They're called Investor Addicts, but it's literally real estate investors, private money lenders, and they'll do deals on, or get to know each other during this cruise. So
Trap
it's like,
everyone on a boat.
exactly, to be able to network. So there's days, like for the sailing days, they do education, but they also do, like, at nighttime, they'll do deal boards. Who has a deal, who has money, and sometimes it's like from tax-free accounts, and they're teaching about those types of things. I would highly recommend looking up Investor Addicts on Facebook, because they go once or twice a year. I went earlier in February, and I love their group and highly recommend them, and I trust them. But that's, if you're looking for private money, that's a pretty cool group to be a part of, to go out there and expand your network, or just mingle with other real estate investors that are doing some pretty cool stuff. And it's like, some of these groups you might not have heard of like that, so you get exposed to a different type of group as well too. They're in a different network. So those are a couple. I will say one other one. Jim Ingersoll in Richmond, Virginia. runs Dealmaker once a year. He's also one that flies under the radar, I feel like, too,
Yeah.
a lot of the times, but he's just a good, wholesome human being that brings a lot of good people together. They do about, I think a 300-person event every year in the Richmond, Virginia area, and he's got a lot of good people that speak there. And like I said, there's new one, Eddie Wilson and Andrew Cordell run Level Up Mastermind, which is a real estate mastermind that I recently joined as well too. And they've got incredible training and biggest people from the biggest stages because they run the Aspire Tour as well. If you know that in the business world, it's just they bring a lot of good business people in teaching. So yeah, like I said, it was dangerous to ask me that question because I know so many people on that side.
No,
Um,
no, it's
but
great. It sounds
but
like
there's some
I'm
options.
gonna have to call some people up, get them on the podcast.
Right, get them on the
Um,
podcast, and also, there's some of those ones where go look up on Facebook if you're listening to this, like the Investor Addicts, go see if a cruise is in your future, so that way you could write it off and get private money for yourself.
see, there's that financial brain working right off
Right?
the cruise.
Exactly.
Love it. Yeah, I'll throw one more out there that's often
Yeah.
overlooked. Launch control. We're the biggest community of real estate investors, coaches, et cetera, in the country. And our CS team, our customer success team, works with people at every level of investment in every market. So if there's something you want to learn how to do within the launch control community, you want to learn how to do seller financing, you want to connect with somebody that's a very successful investor in your market, you want to connect with someone who has really good tie-ins with buyers in your market because you want to get more into fix and flip, or you want to get more into wholesale and you want to learn from them how to do it. Just honestly ask your CS rep, and if they don't have the answer, they can get it from someone else on our team. Right, we're very well connected, and it's often an overlooked aspect of the community.
Very
So yeah,
cool.
ask us as well. All right, so I really appreciate the time, David. We're going to wrap it
Yeah.
up. I'll give you a chance. I know we've talked about profit first. We've talked about simple CFO a bit, but if there's anything else that you wanna
Yeah.
promote, let the people know, and then and we'll wrap it up.
So there's one place that I can let you go to, simplecfo.com/launch. If you do that, simplecfo.com/launch, that's where you can get our profit first cheat sheet. But in there, I would suggest one of two things. If you're on the light level, that cheat sheet also has a link to my book. So you could download it and be like, here, I'm going to go set up the bank accounts and do the stuff that David told me. So deal number one, I'm secure in having some good habits and a good financial system in place. Or if you're like, hey, I'm at that core level or above, well, you can also schedule a call with our team right there as well too. We can at least walk you through if we're not a good fit. I have great connections in the financial section of the real estate world of like, here's
Yeah.
who you can trust. Here's like a good bookkeeper, or here's a good CPA. So if you need to get on the phone with us, you can also do that. And it's the same place, simplecfo.com/launch. You can, no matter what level you're at, you can get that cheat sheet just to go over profit first. And then you can also get that book, my book there, and schedule a call with our team.
Okay, great. Yeah, and if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll post that link in the description below, and you can go and work directly with David. I didn't know you guys were offering that cheat sheet. That's fantastic. I'd love to see more people do that kind of thing. It's really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, well, especially on the financial side, like no one's teaching this
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm like, here's a one pager. The first page is just like the bullet points, 1, 2, 3, what you do. Second page is a visual overview. So that way, if you're a visual learner, you can just see this is how, when it's set up, what it looks like. So yeah, there's that cheat sheet. There's not enough people talking about the financial side. So I want to make it very simple for you to implement.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, if anybody listening is interested in talking with Launch Control, visit us at launchcontrol.us, or you can visit launchcontrol.us/join the conversation and learn more about Deal Nation, even join us as a guest. All right, but thanks, David. I really appreciate it. Great to have you on. And yeah, let's keep in touch.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
All right, thanks, sir.